Hey guys, welcome back to the final piece to our case study with Athena puzzle. So if you have been joining me over the past 4 weeks, we are wrapping up our case study talking about how my client Athena, who has lost 20 pounds on the way to her goal of 25 pounds. So you guys, if you missed parts 1 through 4, definitely go back and check those because we broke down the entire journey, how she did it, how we prepped for it, how she ate on her on weeks, her off weeks, what on and off weeks were, maintenance weeks, break weeks, priming, the whole thing. We broke it all down about how she got scans to estimate, how much fat she was losing and to get accurate representation from those scans of whether or not we were meeting those estimates. So a big part of this journey is making sure that you spend some time rebuilding lost muscle mass so that you heal your metabolism. And then you go back to fat burning mode with that higher metabolism, the increased muscle mass, and you're able to burn the fat a lot easier and eating way more calories than you would have had you just continued on the ever lower increasing, the ever lowering calorie amounts that traditional diets would have you on. So in this final episode, we are breaking down the fact that something that has been underlying throughout the series where Athena said she first found EM2WL 10 years ago. So today we are filling in the gaps. What happened between 2012 and 2022 that made it take so long for her to lose this weight? We're going to talk about how these weight loss attempts leading up to finding EM2WL and afterwards has affected her family as a whole. And we're also going to hear some advice from Athena that she would give to herself 10 years ago. You want to make sure that you stay tuned for that. So if you have been riding along with us for the last 4 episodes, you're really going to love this, how it just brings it all together. And because Athena and I kind of talk back and forth quite a bit during this one, I'm just going to sit back, relax, and let you guys watch it. So here we go. What happened between, so like right now, mini cut, right? Like 2022, but 15 or so, by now you've like regained this weight. You've gained 35 pounds, you've ripped the Band-Aid, you're eating all the foods. So like how do we explain these like middle parts? Like what was happening during there between the reset and the cut? Like, is there anything that kind of stalled you from wanting to cut? Like what got in the way of you finishing up the reset and then moving into the cut? Like, because everybody's dream when they come into this process, they're like, oh, I'm gonna reset. How long is it gonna take? 6 weeks, cool, and then I'll cut. Like that's how like most people's perspective is on the relationship between those two. But what was your actual relationship between the two? Like what happened in the meantime?
There was a lot that happened. I mean, physical therapy, all kinds of stuff. It was just but I can't always say that, cutting was something I always wanted to do, because there were times where we would talk and the cutting wouldn't even come up. Mm-hmm. It would just be like, okay, I want to be able to squat more, or I want to be able to do whatever. So I had, it was kind of, it wasn't always just about losing the weight for me as much as, I guess given my injury history, just gaining strength. Mm-hmm. And like functional strength so that I could just, not be in pain all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it wasn't always about cutting for me or losing, because like I could see other things going on in my body, even though I was at a higher weight. Like when I look at pictures of myself from like my 20s, let's say, yeah, I was way thinner, but I really didn't have like any muscle. So it was just skinny. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because now I look at myself and I'm like, I'm a lot heavier than I was in my 20s, but I almost kind of feel like I look better.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's the reason why I was asking, because a lot, like when we just hear the story, people they fill in the gap themselves based on where they are now. And if you're coming into this journey and you're just looking to lose weight and you hear someone say, here I am 10 years later and I've lost some weight, it's like, I don't want to take 10 years to lose weight. But the stuff that happens along the way is all the stuff that matters. The stuff that happens along the way, like when you get that opportunity, and this happens for so many people, and that's why I like to kind of like highlight that, is that once you start feeling the freedom of, okay, I can eat and actually enjoy life and like do things and not just focus on weight loss, like that gets harder to step away from. And that's one of the things that usually I'm telling people when they're like, when can I cut? When can I cut? When can I cut? I'm like, when you don't want to. It's going to be the best time to know, because as long as you want to cut, then typically it's probably not time yet, because mentally you haven't gone through the transition yet. Because when it was time for you, it was kind of something that I even brought up, like, so what do you think? About a cut? Like, and it was like, ooh, well, how much less food are we talking?
I know. I know.
So like, that's one of the things that like, to me, is the biggest sign of full healing, is having that moment where you can cut or not, and it's not going to affect your happiness. It's not going to affect who you are. Right. It's not going to affect your relationship with your family. So many other things happen along the way, because it's not like you waited to start cutting. It's not like you were intentionally like, I'm trying to cut, nothing's working. Like, when you decided to cut, you cut it. Like, it's happening. We're here. So that's the important thing that I want to kind of like bring full circle, is that there are multiple phases of M2WL for a reason, because sometimes you need the chill. Sometimes you're like, okay, I'm going to rebuild that muscle that I lost from dieting instead of going straight back into dieting. Sometimes you're just like, I just want to focus on like eating the food, getting stronger. I want to just maintain where I'm at. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like, cutting is only like one phase, and all the rest of the phases pertain to eating. There's only this one phase. But in the beginning, that is the phase that seems the most magical for us. And it's like, the cut is really not that big of a deal. Like, when you go to cut, you'll lose fat. Like, it's not right. You know what I mean? Like, it works. Yes. It's just a matter of being fully healed before leaning into that for all of your happiness and
it's really like a mental thing, really. Yeah. Like, I remember like with my first reset, I mean, I was just eating. I mean, for some reason I was avoiding bananas when I was on Weight Watchers and whatever else I was doing. It was like a fear food. Like, I don't have fear foods anymore. I mean, I basically eat, as long as I can fit it into my day, I eat it. Nothing is off limits. And I think that's what's great about this, is because I love to cook. I don't have to worry, I can make what I want, and you just have to like fit it into your day, just like mentally. I mean, like, that first reset was really sort of just mentally freeing, just being able to just eat. Yeah. And it was the same thing like last summer when I had to take time off. It was just like, okay, I'm just going to take a break. Sometimes I think the break is just as important as everything else you have going on that you want to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's the biggest thing that I really wanted for you to be able to share today, is just kind of how like this journey has affected all the other parts of your life. Because as much as like, we could have came on here and just talked about like, hey, you lost 20 pounds. Like, how exactly did you do it? Exactly how many calories are you eating? Like, you know what I mean? And just really break down the fat loss process. But I feel like too much emphasis is placed on that, because the fat loss part is not like that. We could do that in our sleep. Like, literally at this point in time, because of all the habits that you've built up, most of what you're doing, like, you just take the time out to do it. It's not like it's hard for you anymore.
Right.
Like,
right. Yeah.
Like, cutting isn't fun. Like, it's not easy, but you know what I mean? It's because of all the things that you've done along the way, but just really looking into like how this journey, like what it's made possible for your life as a whole, is really the thing that is why I do what I do, and it's why I feel that your journey is something to be shared, because of the fact that 10 years, you're not the person that's like stomping your feet like, I've been doing this for 10 years and nothing's happening. you don't feel like it was 10 years wasted. You don't feel like
No.
it was like, you don't compartmentalize it and just like, okay, I was doing EM2WL for this time and then I stopped and then I did this. Like, you see all of it as one cohesive journey.
Yeah. I mean, I'm one of those people that when I find something that really resonates with me, like I'm all in. There's like no turning back, you know. And did I resist or did I mess up here and there? Yeah. But, you know, it wasn't, like I said before, it wasn't always my goal to just lose. There was other things I wanted to accomplish that had absolutely nothing to do with cutting.
Right.
So someone might say, oh, it took me 10 years to lose 20 pounds, but, you know, I wasn't always trying to lose the 20 pounds. I was, you know, like I said, I wanted to try to lift more. I wanted to do other things, you know, and this whole process has made that possible for me. So, and it's just been completely life-changing for me, physically, mentally, mainly more mentally, and I have 2 daughters.
Yeah.
And I feel like this allows them to see, you know, what a healthy lifestyle looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Like they know, like they see me lifting weights all the time. They see me eating protein, you know, and, you know, because I think a lot of young girls just really fall into this trap of, oh, we need to look a certain way, or we need to have, you know, a certain image or weigh a certain amount or whatever. And, you know, I really didn't want that for my daughters. So I do it for myself, but I also try and set an example for them too. So.
And you have, and you are. And so like for them to see that, like, yes, if I ever decide to lose weight, like it's there, like it's a tool on the shelf that I can like take off and use when I need it. And then I can put it back on the shelf and continue living my life. And I feel like that is the biggest example that you have given them, is that you didn't focus on fat loss for 10 years. You focused on your life. You focused on them. You focused on Mike. You focused on, you know, getting stronger, being healthier, like mentally and physically. You focused on healing, you know, your injuries. You focused on, you know, changing your relationship with food. There's so many things that have changed for you along the way, and to really realize that this is so much more of a holistic journey than we think. It's really about it becoming part of your life, because when it becomes a part of your life, you realize like, I can take a break. I don't need to focus on that day in and day out, right, at the expense of all of these other things that are important to me in my life. And so that is what you've taught your kids. So to wrap this up, tell me, if you could go back to your Weight Watchers days, we're going way back. If you could go back to your Weight Watchers days and give yourself advice back then, what would that be?
What would my advice be? Throw it all out.
Yes.
Throw it all out. I mean, seriously. I mean, I don't know. I just feel like the diet industry, the fitness industry, they profit off of these things and we just fall for it, you know? So, I mean, I would just say to myself, this is just totally not worth it. Like, there's nothing wrong with eating food. You know what I mean? I mean, I'd sit there and count points. And then I know I'm crazy, but like, you know, I have my measurements going back like years and years. But I was flipping through my little book and I saw what I logged in one day. I just wrote it down. I was on Weight Watchers and I was like, oh my gosh, that's all I ate that day? I mean, that's like breakfast now. You know? So yeah, if I were to go back to my 20s and give myself advice, it would be, don't do low calorie diets, you know, just focus on, you know, eating the food, lifting the weights, because, you know, that's the only way to do it, really, you know?
Yeah. Good. Okay. That was awesome. Thank you so much, Athena, for sharing your story with those who are just starting. So whether you are 10 years in, like Athena, or 10 days in, you know that this journey is so much more than just weight loss. Will you ever lose the weight? Yes, if you want to. But as you have learned from Athena's story, somewhere along the line, you may find out that you don't want to. And that is also not set in stone. So if you start out on the journey and you start eating the foods and you start feeling like, okay, I just really want to enjoy this part, it's not that you're giving up on your goals. A lot of women feel that way. I feel like so many women feel like if I stop, if I do this metabolism reset, if I take a chill phase, if I stop focusing on weight loss all the time, what else will I do? And hopefully Athena's story helped you to realize that there's a lot to do. There's life, and there's so much more to life than the weight loss, but it also doesn't mean that you can't at any given time flip the switch like Athena did in this past year and just say, you know what? And now I'm going to lose the weight. And the day that you decide that, that part changes too. And then it just becomes the cherry on top, because you've been building this Sunday for the entire time. And now you're just going to slap that cherry on top. And when you do, you still have the people in your life that are around, the people that you took the time with to spend and enjoy during this time period are more supportive of you on the journey. Because like I said, Athena also has her husband right there alongside of her, doing the journey with her, fully convinced because of the fact that she took the time to live it. So thank you so much, Athena, for sharing your story. And I hope that it really helped those of you guys who are like in the thick of it now, going through the weight gain, going through, you know, the time off, going through not being able to execute everything as perfectly as you want to give yourself a little bit of grace and look into what else you could be doing during that time while you're building those habits, those baby steps, one at a time, and take your time. It can be 10 years, or it doesn't have to be if you don't want it to be. But the point is to give yourself the grace to live this as a lifestyle versus rushing yourself to be a certain size for whatever reason. As Athena said, the society may be telling you that you have to be that size for. So thank you again, Athena, for joining us. And we'll see you guys next time. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this series as much as I loved rewatching it, breaking it down, and kind of reliving this process with you guys. Obviously, this journey looks 100% different for every single person, but because Athena is somebody who has found M2WL from so long ago and is just still rocking with us to this day, I thought that this was the perfect example. Because if you're somebody who just found M2WL, I think sometimes it's really good to hear about how people all go through kind of these turmoil points in the beginning, how people come across M2WL, but also how, you know, like not everybody just goes right into the next phase. So if you're feeling any of the things that Athena felt and you are really in alignment with that, or if you're just starting out and you're like, I don't want it to take 10 years, you could get some tips from Athena there as well too. So hopefully there was a little bit of something for everyone in this series. I really enjoyed it, and I think I'm probably going to end up doing it again with another client very soon. We will also mix in some of the usual videos as well to help you guys along on your journey. But I'm so glad that I got to document this series with you guys. If it's something that you like, make sure you give me a thumbs up so that I know to create more content like this. If this series brought up any questions for you about how to personalize your journey, you can go ahead and drop them below. Or if you are interested in working with me one-on-one, I will also leave a link to that below in the comments, or maybe link it up here somewhere so that you can book a call with me to figure out what your next steps are. So thank you guys so much for watching this series, and I'll be back with our regularly scheduled videos next week. See you guys next Thursday.